Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from SkiEssentials.com.
And I'm Bob. How's it going?
Bob and I are here today to talk about the 2026 Black Crows Octo. We also have a 2025 graphic up here with us.
A comically small size.
It is very small.
It's a 167. It's fine.
You probably see that length more often in the Octo Birdie.
Yep.
It's not a new ski for 2026. Aside from the fact that it does get a new top sheet graphic, it was new for 2025. And we've talked about it before. We had it in our ski test, so we have a ski test video for it, and it's definitely in at least one comparison video. I can't imagine it's in more than one. But I was reminded recently that we never did a long-form Black Crows Octo video or article review. So thought we would take the opportunity to do so. Excuse me. We recently talked about the new 2026 Camix, which is all new. And some of you might be wondering, well, if you're doing another Black Crows video, why aren't you talking about the other new ski, the Sato? And you skied it a ton.
Yeah.
Really the only reason that we're kind of doing this before the Sato, I suppose, because we haven't done it yet and it's been out longer. But we don't have a Sato in the building right now. So here's some footage of Bob skiing the Sato. And what did you think of the Sato, Bob?
I really enjoyed that ski. It was one of the more kind of intuitive and easy to turn skis I'd been on.
Yeah.
But you could push it pretty good.
Yeah.
It just felt incredibly smooth.
Yeah.
No metal, 88 underfoot.
90 underfoot.
Yeah, right up my alley.
Yeah.
It's like a really good ski. It was interesting because it doesn't come in a length longer than, I think, 179 it tops out.
Yeah.
And even
I
this...
think I skied it like pretty short.
Yeah.
I don't remember what length it was, but it was short.
And even your
This
Octo
goes to
there goes to
185.
185.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting, but didn't think that it was too short by any stretch, even for not having any metal.
Cool. So as soon as we have a Sato in the building that we can use for the in-studio portion of these videos, we'll definitely put out a Sato review because, I think it's going to be a good choice for a lot of skiers. And I think this Octo is too. It's like, I feel like the Octo is one of those skis that it takes a little while for people to realize what it is and what it's good at and if it would be beneficial for them. And I think the answer of the beneficial part for most people, or for a lot of skiers, is yes. And I guess, I'm a little bit surprised that it hasn't taken off more than it has, although I could argue with myself about this. Just because we see a lot of Mirus Cor out on the hill. And before we turned the camera on, Bob, I asked you what percentage of Mirus Cor skiers that we see out there would potentially be better off on an Octo, and your answer was 75%.
The majority, it's definitely more than half. And I think just from a use case scenario, most of the people we see on Mirus Cors are directional groomer skiers.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to tell them they're wrong for having a Mirus Cor. It's incredibly fun. But if you kind of started from scratch and didn't know anything about Ski A or Ski B, and you said, here's who I am and what I'm all about and what I do on snow, probably end up pointing them to Octo over Mirus Cor.
Yeah, I kind of agree. And we can talk a little bit about the differences between Mirus Cor and Octo when we get more to the performance side. But you ready to talk about construction and shape and that kind of stuff, or anything else that you want to put out there before we get going?
Let's back it up just a quick second and kind of note that this is kind of picking up where the Vertis left off as a mid-80s underfoot, really snappy and energetic carbon
Vertis
ski.
85?
It was either 84 or 85.
I believe it was 85.
But that Vertis was one of those skis that in our ski test and in our media days, everyone who got on it was like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah.
What's the deal with this?
Yeah.
And it's because it's more of a classically cambered ski with a mid-80s underfoot waist width and some nice energy to it. So it's just a really rewarding ski experience. Well, I think when Black Crows saw kind of the Mirus Cor and the styling and kind of the attitude of that ski takeoff, they kind of mushed it in with what was the outgoing Vertis and into the Octo. So from a tip shape and a quasi swallowtail perspective, they really brought that Mirus Cor styling and attitude into this, and it certainly seems to have helped it gain traction that the Vertis never had.
Yeah, I agree. And like that, I'm glad that you brought that up, because although that we don't feel like we see a lot of them on snow just yet, it like right from day one, it was getting more attention and kind of had more excitement surrounding it than the Vertis.
Yeah.
And you and I were like kind of joking a little bit about it. Like, who knew that all they needed to do was make the tip look like that?
Just smush the tip down.
Just like, just make something that was a little bit more eye-catching,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, people started talking about it. So, construction's super simple, so it shouldn't take you too long.
No, poplar wood core, fiberglass, does have a full wrap sidewall to it, and it does have this aluminum insert in the tail.
Yeah.
You know, and that's about it. I think that the sidewall is kind of the big story here, as it does wrap all the way around.
Yeah, which is, it's necessary because there's no additives in there.
Right. So it's amazing what Black Crowes does with a simple wood core construction. And then kind of one of the differences between this and some other skis, even you were referencing the Kamix, which on paper shares a similar build, but definitely feel quite a bit different.
Yeah, like the finishing is way different.
Yeah, and just how they mill the core and how thin this ski is, and so they adjust the flex through the thinness or the thickness of the core, however you want to talk about it, and then the flex ends up being pretty gratuitous. So pretty flexible ski as a result.
Super flexy.
And pretty light too. I weighed that one and it was about 1,750 grams.
Subtracting the demo binding.
Subtracted the demo binding. So
I mean, that's soft. Like,
yeah.
It's not the softest thing in the world. It's got like more pushback to it than like a Reckoner 102 or like a Line Blend or something that's like ultra soft.
Yeah.
But still, like there's a lot of flex to that.
Yeah, and when it's on your feet, like when we were skiing that pair there,
That's a lot.
you would take your foot and like push
yeah.
your heel. And
I do it with my tip a lot.
And you'd
like,
watch the tail flex out, and you kind of get a good indication of how hard you're going to be able to drive this ski and get the appropriate performance.
This is your
my wiggle
your
test.
signature wiggle test.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's pretty wiggly.
Yeah, and it kind of has to be to do what it does at the level at which it does those things.
Yep.
And Black Crowes does a really nice job of mixing the construction with the shaping. So I think that when we get into shape and profile, they kind of go more hand in hand than in some other skis that rely on one or the other to make their product stand out.
You want to talk about shape now?
I mean, I'm done with that's it. It's a simple build.
Let's talk about shape now. I wanted to bring a Mirus Cor here, and Bob wouldn't let me because he said I would talk about it too much, which is probably right.
But here you go again.
But I did, like, it would be cool to look at it next to that ski. So imagine a Mirus Cor. The tip shape is basically the same.
Yeah.
You know, there might be some subtle differences, but it's mostly the same. There is rocker up here, but for the most part, it's a pretty like flat, low-lying tip.
It's stubby.
Which I think is important
Yeah.
because like you use this whole section of the ski quite a bit. Similar early taper to Mirus Cor, so it gives you like this pretty bulbous, kind of fat tip for how narrow the rest of the ski is. 84 underfoot here, a good amount of camber. Like camber height is pretty significant.
Yeah,
but you push through it like
it's so easy to
like
collapse.
nothing. Yeah, exactly.
Whereas like that M-Free 100 that we had the other day, you really had to, it tested your grip strength to collapse the camber.
Yeah. And then looking at the tail here, this is where we start to see the differences between Mirus Cor and Octo here. It's pretty much a flat tail. Like there's a little bit of tail rocker back here, but not much more than, say, 17 centimeters at most. And there's not much splay. So you really do have pretty much a flat tail, where the Mirus Cor, the tail looks very, very similar to the tip. So this is not a twin tip, which puts it in like a completely different category on paper than the Mirus Cor. But you know, they still have some similarities for sure. Like even Black Crows says that this is like the younger cousin to the Mirus Cor, which is like, as far as analogies go, pretty good analogy when you're talking about like family structure and relationships.
I don't know. This seems more like the older uncle, the more conservative uncle to me than the wild young cousin.
Well, they're going in chronological order, Bob. So this can't be the older uncle.
Which
because
one's
it
younger?
Hasn't existed. This is younger.
Oh, I know. Yeah, in terms of ski building.
Yeah.
But in terms of your family's age.
Well, Bob, that would be impossible because this ski didn't exist until
Yeah,
after the
I hear
Mirus
ya.
Cor. So it cannot be its. Well, no. Could it be its uncle? That's getting tricky.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it couldn't because I think it could. But anyways, so that's the big difference. We still do have like kind of the bulbous, tapered kickouts to the tail here, but not as pronounced as
Yeah.
Mirus Cor. And that brings the turn radius down, or that combined with the overall shape, or rather it brings it up to a 14-meter turn shape rather than the 13-meter in the Mirus Cor. So still a pretty darn short turn radius, but you know, those are the differences. And it's not like, you know, if you take out the angularity of this tip shape, maybe a little bit of the taper, take that out and take out the tiny little swallowtail, and it's not like a wild shape for being an 8,400 foot ski. Do you agree?
I agree. It's really the flex of the ski and the short radius that makes it stand out.
Right. And like, I remember when this ski first came out, I don't remember where the conversation was, but I took the time to bring up some other 8,400 foot skis. And I think those skis were like, oh, just here, now this is an appropriate sweatshirt. Like MX 84, Anomaly 84. What are some other 8,400 foot strong skis with metal?
The Montero AR.
Thank you, Montero AR. Like anything like that, it can be tempting to look at this ski and think that it falls in that category because of the shape. And then when you see people ski it, they're like making really cool turns generally.
Mm-hmm.
But the flex puts it in a much, much different category.
Yep.
And I think that's a good segue into performance. Most of the footage that we have is just making turns on groomers, which often when we're putting these videos together, I get like, I'm kind of bummed out if we don't have like a big wide range of footage.
Yeah.
But I think for this one, it kind of works because
Yeah.
that's its highlight for sure. So
I've skied it.
what do you think, Bob?
So I'll start with kind of a softer snow start because that's how I got it on first in our ski test. So pretty spring-like conditions, and it did okay.
Yep.
You know, you didn't want to push it too hard in that
Yep.
softer snow, but once it's firmed out and smoothed out, kind of in more of the footage that we have, really, really engaging and interesting ski. Like I prefer a more flexible carver because I don't have a race background.
Yeah.
So for skiers that want to experience kind of the thrill of a pure, like short to medium radius carved turn,
Yeah.
having something like the Octo makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
as opposed to, the Montero. Let's go that route
Yeah.
for just a second. You know, I really enjoy skiing the Montero, but it's also, I'm not coming close to touching the top end of the Montero.
Yeah, and do you agree that like on those skis and the others that I listed, like Anomaly 84 or MX 84 or those stiffer mid-80 skis, that those can be very, very rewarding, but they require like baseline speed to get there. Like
Yeah.
they have like a minimum speed, where
Yeah.
this, if anything, it has a little bit more of a maximum speed, but it can still do it. But the big benefit here is that you get that like rewarding experience that you're talking about more easily. So you
Yeah.
don't have to go super fast and you don't have to put like a tremendous amount of strength into generating your turn. The ski just kind of does it.
Yeah, and a quick note on the length, because it does come in a longer one, but I think like 185s with a 14-meter turn radius are a little awkward.
Yeah,
like
sure.
I was happy on the 179.
This and what's I think the next down is like 173.
Yeah,
That kind of feels like the sweet spot to me.
yeah,
I know we have footage of Megan that we've shared before, I believe skiing that length, and it definitely works for a smaller skier. But yeah, for you and I would guess for most male skiers or most people our size at least, like either 173 or 179
Yeah.
is going to be the right way to go.
yeah. But the fact that the flex allows you to access the entirety of that 14-meter arc
Yeah.
is the best part of the ski.
Yeah.
And the fact that the tail is directly connected to the snow and just has amazing rebound into the next turn.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry. It doesn't really wash out. You know, I think if you're on firm snow and really pushing hard, it's going to be a little bit jittery. But
Yeah.
you know, if you're adhering to the radius and keeping it in kind of the mid-range, it's a very rewarding carving experience.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And like the sweet, like the best thing for me on this ski was moderately pitched slopes at moderate speeds. And in that capacity, it's an incredible ski. It's very, very rewarding, and it's really easy to vary turn radius.
Yeah.
You know, even though it's a stated 14-meter turn radius, it's so soft that like you really feel like you can like make these like kind of rhythmic,
Yeah.
like it's like a song or poetry or something where like short, 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 long, and like it's just really easy to do all of those things, which I really enjoy. We've talked about, like, we bring up this section of trail a lot at like the lower North Slope section, and there's some footage of me skiing lower North Slope on this ski, and just watching it back, I'm like, man, that looks like so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah,
Where-
you can really create some forces.
Yeah, and like that's pretty flat, and
Yeah.
you're not going that fast, and just like the ability to do like some really, really fun, really rewarding turns is awesome. Alternatively, I think there's footage of me skiing maybe like the middle section of Nosedive, which never comes across on camera, that it's actually a pretty steep pitch,
Yeah.
like weirdly looks very flat, but you get going kind of fast. And that's when, like what you were saying, like, it's not that it washes out, but when you're in a high-speed carve, there's too much, like, flutter from the flex that you're constantly kind of, like, readjusting or, like, pulling back a tiny bit just to be like,
Right.
I don't want to, like,
I don't want to
die right now. Like, I don't want to stuff a tip, you know,
Yeah.
because you can.
You can.
So it's like, that's the sweet spot. And again, thinking back to that conversation, or it was on a forum or comment section or something. I think it's important for people to know that if you are looking at this as an all-mountain carving ski and your idea of all-mountain carving is just going as fast as you can, just go look elsewhere. If your idea of all-mountain carving is like more the lateral acceleration and like
Yeah.
the rewarding feel and making clean round turns, and you're not concerned about how fast you're skiing, then it's tremendous. And it is like, I said we would talk about it in reference to the Mirus Cor. Even though that ski has a shorter turn radius, it actually can handle speed a little better. It's a little more stout underfoot.
Like carving speed.
Yeah. Because that's like, I've had moments on the Mirus Cor where I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah.
Like, this thing feels fine, I'm gonna keep going, which is counterintuitive due to its shape, but there's something about the metal underfoot and the wider tail that like locks you in a little bit more, which is not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a difference. And it is kind of nice that this tail lets you kind of feather the end of the turn a little bit if you want to. That Mirus Cor sometimes feels totally locked if you're
Yeah.
up on a high edge angle, and this allows for a little bit of movement, compliance.
I had a
skidding.
little bit more success on this Octo than the Mirus Cor at speeds in a carved turn.
Just interesting.
Because of the directional nature.
Yeah, I bet it's 100% skiing style. Like,
Yeah.
you're skiing this section,
Yeah.
and on the Mirus Cor, I'm just like side, 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 side,
Yeah.
side.
And I've also felt like this ski works better in a building process, like starting slow and building momentum as you go, and then you can kind of modulate your top end as opposed to starting fast and trying.
Do you agree that you can build momentum and energy and power more in the first half of the turn than the second half of the turn?
Yeah, but there's really good rebound.
Yeah,
you know, like I really enjoy using
the flex,
the rebound of the tail to start my next turn.
Yeah,
and especially with a short arc ski like this, that allows someone like me to do it easier.
Yeah, that's kind of more of your like fore aft preferences or just habits than I have.
Yeah, and you just don't have to
background.
And you just don't have to work as hard as you do on an anomaly.
Yeah,
you know, and there's something satisfying to that, to be like, all right, I'm putting in 70% of the effort, but getting 100% of the return.
Yeah.
Whereas anomaly, it's 100-100.
Yeah,
you know, this allows you to use the flex better to get that.
If
energy.
you're not if you're not at the necessary level or the appropriate level on skis like anomaly, you could be putting in 100 and only getting out 70.
Right.
You know, if you're not like driving the ski properly, then you're just kind of like along for the ride.
Yeah.
The other thing that's like, you know, another kind of potential benefit is like this makes you like think a little bit more. Like you're very in tune with whatever's in front of you.
Yeah.
Whereas on those stiffer, more metal-clad skis, it's like it doesn't matter.
Right.
You know, and like that could be perceived as a negative depending on what you want, but it does keep you very, very engaged and entertained as a skier.
Yeah, I was thinking of another one to compare it to in our talk here, and the Nordica Steadfast 85 came to my mind as something that's a great mid-radius ski that's really easy to get to access the top percent of the spectrum. And that's a little bit sturdier of a build, but same type of attitude as just these real round S-shaped carbs with a lot of energy.
I'm going to ask you about a couple other skis, but do you want to talk about our off-piste thoughts?
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if you know this, but this footage that I'm going to use is mostly of your daughter skiing.
Great. Was she on an Octo?
No, but you are. So we're kind of like wiggling around through some trees at Stowe, and you're on an Octo. So like think about it as like a Stowe bump ski, a Stowe tree ski, and like something that you would guide your kids around with.
Yeah, I think it fits into that. It's not one of the skis that I would reach for bumps and trees. I think
same
that
with me.
there's something to be said for how mobile this shovel is and how easy it is to flex and bend into a turn. But with the camber and the flatter tail, it's just not as fun in those areas. It's not like it can't do it. The ski is relying on the flex and the lighter weight in order to make those things happen. We recently talked about the new Atomic Maverick 88 CTI and how that ski is so easy to maneuver, but it still has a stronger tail, which is kind of puts you back a little bit.
Yeah.
But the flex of this allows you to get out of those troublesome situations with ease. So it's not like this is something I would reach for a specific mogul or tree ski here, but I also wouldn't turn it away. You know, that was kind of one of my thoughts this morning before was, you could give me this ski and I'd be happy, or it could not exist and I wouldn't bother me. You know,
that is an interesting way to think about it.
You're not thinking about it like, man, I wish I had an 84 underfoot ski with a 14-meter turn radius that is really
that's
flexible.
Soft and
But that's why Black Crowes is an interesting ski manufacturer. They make things that you don't think about.
Yeah, and like this is not a cheap ski, you know, to bring up Black Crowes as a ski manufacturer. And a lot of the times, if you're looking at their construction or their ingredients, it can be hard to kind of justify the price tag. And I feel like with Black Crowes, what you're paying for is uniqueness and creativity.
Yeah.
Like you're paying for their R&D, you're paying for their testing, and like the fact that they're out trying this stuff, you're not paying. It's not like there's 2 sheets of Titanal in here and they need you to pay more because they need to cover the cost of those materials. They're covering the cost of like their development, which is like kind of a fun way to think about it.
Yeah.
We don't have footage of it, but there's some photos of Matt skiing our little nosedive early cutoff shoot couloir thing, whatever term will bother people that live out west and ski real terrain the most. And you can kind of tell just from the photos that, like, I mean, Matt's a very, very good skier, and you can tell that he's putting some work in. Like, it's not like this is the easiest, most supple off-piste ski.
Yeah.
So it can do it, but it's certainly not a highlight.
Yeah, and that day I don't think we have video of it, but he was skiing it down, and he did that flex test with the heel, and he was a little nervous, and I'm like, yeah, you gotta build up.
Yeah.
Don't go and expect.
You have
this
to, like,
thing
learn the ski.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to, like, become one with the ski.
Yeah.
And, like, learn its limitations, and then take that and adapt your skiing and like your goals to kind of what the ski wants to do.
And if you want to go fast, just use a shallower edge angle.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If you want to go fast, just go straight.
Yeah.
Just don't expect to go fast and then enter a carving turn and expect the thing to, like, be happy and hold and track really well.
Yeah.
Because it probably won't.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the bigger limitations is carving turns at speed, like pure turns.
Yeah.
So what it's designed to do, it does at a certain speed. And beyond that, you have to alter your own style.
You want to talk about some comparisons?
Sure.
Dynastar M-Cross 88.
That ski is stronger and you have to pay way more attention on the M-Cross 88. This isn't that.
What about turn shapes alone?
Very similar turn shapes and styles. I trust the Dynastar more at speed.
Okay. The ski that it replaces, the Vertis.
I can't tell the difference.
There's not much of a difference,
There's really not
right?
much of a difference. It's just that wonderful building energy through the camber,
I think it's a
rebound out of the tail.
little bit more angular.
This might be more flexible.
This ski, I feel like it prefers a higher edge angle, and it kind of like promotes carving.
Vertis was a little bit more like feet together, Z-shaped, and this is a little bit more wider feet, S-shaped.
Here's one that like kind of falls into the Anomaly MX Montero category, but not really. Declivity 82 Ti.
That thing feels much more rugged.
A little bit more like a race ski without an integrated binding.
Yeah, like you want to be on firm snow on that thing to max it up.
Yep. New one.
Yeah.
It's a really fun game. Mantra 84.
Again, the precision and power of that Mantra put it on a different level than most other 84s.
I would love to see the torsional stiffness figures because I bet that Mantra is double this.
And not to mention, like, that Mantra is like flat.
Yeah.
Whereas this uses a camber to get the energy.
Yeah. We already talked about Montero and Anomaly. What else? Anything else you want to throw in there? Like M Pro 85.
Yeah, that's a good one. Nice energy.
Yeah.
Doesn't love carving at high speeds.
But like kind of similar that it's like an interesting tip shape.
Yeah, unique.
Yeah.
And flat tail.
Yeah.
Good, like, positive camber underfoot.
Anything in like the system ski world that you feel like it strikes a similar vibe with?
I mean, that Steadfast is
kind
of that's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
And then some other notable 84s are a little bit stronger, like the Super Shape Titan.
Yeah, way stronger.
A Peregrine 82.
I thought about that one, but it feels like Mantra 84 is a better comparison. Peregrine just feels like it has more race influence.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that most of those systems, when they get to this width, they're focusing on power and more race based than all mountain systems. Like, I don't know, a Vocal Blaze 86, something like that would be.
That's an interesting comparison. That thing can't hold an edge as well.
Yeah.
But it's similarly fun.
Yeah. More versatile, I would say.
Yeah. Much more because that ski's like fun in the bumps.
Yeah.
What do you think about ability level?
It's smack in the middle of advanced because you want to have a good skill set, but you also don't want to be overpowered.
Do you feel like it could be a good learning tool for an intermediate who wants to carve better?
Yeah, and I think it's also great for an expert skier
Who wants to carve better?
And not put in much effort. So like the fact that those two kind of bookend, I think that advanced is here, and then there's intermediate and expert on top of that.
I feel like the benefit for those skiers who want to learn how to carve better is this ski keeps reminding you to go slower.
Yeah.
And I feel like our instincts when thinking about carving is to go faster. Or like if you watch, you sit on your couch and watch a giant slalom race, you're like, those guys are going fast. Like I got to go do that and get my hip on the ground and it's going to be sweet. And then you get on this and you try and do that and like just fall.
Right.
But like if you just ski moderately and just use your technique, then it creates really, really rewarding, pretty turns.
And like I'd be happy skiing it pretty much every day, but I also know that that would be the limit of there would be a limit to my progression as a skier. You know, if
you ski within your means, kind of. Yeah.
You just have to know that there's a limit there.
Yep. Anything else? That's all I got.
I think it's a great testament to taking kind of an existing good ski that people knew worked well in a Vertis and throwing a cool design at it that they know is popular, and now it's got some good traction to it. But it took Mirus Cor
It took Mirus Cor like 4 years.
Yeah.
Because that ski's been out longer than people realize.
Yeah.
It's had like 5 different graphics.
Yeah, and I think that this is going to be pretty much right after it.
Like, do you even remember skiing the first Mirus Cors with the white graphic before they were released?
I don't think so.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like, Black Crows came, and they were like, check out this thing. Right. We don't think we're really going to sell any, but we tried to make it, and you should try it. And I was like, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And now you see, like, I feel like I see 25 every time I go skiing.
And they're in groups of people, too.
Pods. There's pods of Mirus Cors. Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. So that's it. That's the Black Crows Octo. Back again, new top sheet for 2026. Let us know if you have any questions, as usual, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.